Hi, this is Naroki5. I am going to be doing this until I die or I find something better to do. So please help me achieve this personal and, I think, noble objective by contributing to my Patreon or Subscribestar. Link is down below. Every little bit helps. Thank you very much. Okay, I am not a huge fan of Turn Flinging Monkey, at least not anymore anyway. However, this isn't necessarily about Turn Flinging Monkey. This is in particular more about, at least in my opinion, probably the best work that I ever listened to when I was an active listener to Turn Flinging Monkey, and that was a series of videos that he did back in 2016, the best of which I enjoyed was his Enemies of Man series. It's unfortunate that he didn't actually get into the negative aspects of women and the positive aspects of men, which I will also have to get into in order. And you need to understand that this is not, as I've been going along, I'm fairly convinced now this is not just a gender war. This is something a whole lot bigger. This is, and oddly enough, in competitiveness, you will actually see part of this come out. You're seeing a bunch of people at the top starting to panic because they're afraid of losing power, and they're pulling literally every single string that they can to effectively keep us divided, to prevent something that is almost inevitably coming. So even if they win, they still lose. One of the biggest tools that they have in their toolbox, and this is something that Turn Flinging Monkey gets into, is competitiveness. If you're a male, you can no sooner toss away competitiveness any more than, say, women can toss away hypergamy. It's just built right into your DNA. And the reason why it's there is really simple. The man with the most resources, the man with the most status, the man with the most influence guarantees that the offspring that are born, the progeny, the offspring, the children that are born by that man, have a much better chance of surviving and going on to succeed than, say, someone who is dirt poor. And the way it works, and they're almost kind of like, there's almost like a yin and yang thing. Competitive and hypergamy are almost like these two yin and yang aspects that kind of like counterbalance each other. Female hypergamy effectively rewards the men at the top, because hypergamy rewards the men at the top. And you're seeing this specifically in the black, with in particular the black pill and the dating apps and the dating sites that you're currently seeing, which I don't belong to, and I never will belong to unless I decide to run an experiment or something like that. Very unlikely. What you're seeing with competitiveness is effectively the guys at the top, and again, you're seeing this in the big picture, the people at the top need to stay at the top, and the people down below are constantly pushing up from below to try to dislodge the people to get to the tops of themselves, and then prevent anybody from down below from pushing them off of their pedestal. And what does that pedestal really get you, or what does it really do for you? It gets you the access to the, at least with female hypergamy, it gets you the access to women, power, wealth. It grants you a degree of independence and self-sufficiency that most of the other people down below you don't have. And because competitiveness is hardwired into male DNA, it is very, very, and this is part of the reason why the manosphere, some of the most bitter, nasty opponents to MGTOW or anything else in the manosphere has come from other men. These are the men that are doing this on behalf of feminists, are doing this with the expectation that they're going to somehow gain, that in doing this they get an advantage over other men. In the almost gut level hostility and anger and vociferousness of a male who chooses to not participate in that system, aka they go MGTOW, is it not only they can't conceive of that. They have a hard time wrapping their brains around how a man could not choose to participate in that system. Don't they understand that they have a society to keep up, that they have progeny to bring into the world, that not all women are like that, etc., etc., etc. A free-thinking male that does not conform to the structure is a visceral threat, not only on an emotion level, but on an actual level as well. Because each man that chooses to withdraw from the system means that and it is going to eventually reach this point. Specifically, and this is the thing, MGTOW, if enough men choose to go MGTOW, if enough men choose to go their own way, and it's going to eventually get the attention of the people at the top. Because, like I say, each individual male is no more than a pinprick. But if you have a pinprick, or you have a little sore that's covering maybe 1% of your body, that's a serious problem, right? Suddenly you don't have a small problem anymore. You have a festering wound. Having 1% of your skin exposed to the elements can create potential serious problems for society. And it can take that few men doing that. When you go MGTOW, and I mean, again, even though you are, for the men that have gone MGTOW, even if you have gone MGTOW, or even as a MGTOW, you don't stop competing, right? Like, competitiveness is built right into your DNA as a man. What you were striving for and what you were competing for changes, but you still remain a man. You still remain that competitive human being. What has happened is that your priority has shifted. Competition in of itself is not necessarily a bad thing. Competition and tribalism, which I will get into later, but competition has enabled men to build these dynamic power structures in governmental structures and corporate structures and religious structures and so on and so forth, where there is a clear delineation of duties and responsibilities, and the power system goes down and you go up by playing the game, by competing against the people around you to rise to the top of that system. That's how it works. So as long as there is a bona fide way of gaining status, of gaining wealth, of being able to move up, a society remains stable. What you're seeing here with this current structure is that men playing the game as it is currently rigged, as it is currently set out, playing the game that way, the system is rigged. The game is rigged. There's now enough corruption out there that if you don't hold to the right opinions, or if you don't do the wrong thing, or whatever, and men, by and large, being the creators of most of the wealth in society right now, the way the society has been built, the people, the elites, for lack of a better term, are trying to use their, and I'm not going to get into what the elites are doing, but basically there's been slowly but surely through corporatism and whatever, and I don't necessarily know if this is planned or whether this is just a bunch of people moving in this general direction. The whole situation has just reached the point now where it's like men are beginning to figure out that the game as it is currently being played is just simply too risky, and they're leaving one person at a time. What's happening with that is that your exiting is perceived as a weakness to a certain crowd of other men out there. It is perceived as a weakness. That weakness is why you're seeing more and more men specifically going into MGTOW forums, attacking MGTOW, attacking specifically MGTOW, not the men's rights movement, not the PUA, because the men's rights movement is attempting to reform the system to keep the power system in place, a noble objective, and the PUAs are effectively, or the red pill community, the dating coaches, whatever, are attempting to manipulate, trying to refigure out what the rules are so that you can gain an advantage and continue to move up. MGTOW is not that. MGTOW is, at its essence, a departure from the system. What you are choosing to compete for at that point is that you're basically attempting to compete for your piece of property. And by the way, it is an immense relief to know that as you're going about, and this is something that only a MGTOW man can really truly understand, especially one that has completed the red pill rage, there's a huge, immense amount of freedom knowing that you're able to just do what you need to do without having to worry about the approval of women or, in general, the approval of society. You are creating your own little thing or big thing, but you're not playing by the rules set out. The shallow argument that, oh, well, you're leaving, that's more for me. Or, well, you're quitting because you just can't handle it. And it's sort of like, no. I mean, if you know that the umpire is throwing a baseball game, or you're sitting at a craps table and you know the game is fixed, you do not fucking stay there. That is just common sense, right? Yeah, you're competing for cash and prizes in both cases, or you're competing for prestige, or you're competing for the win. But I mean, if the game itself is rigged, then competitiveness actually works against you. What are you striving for? That is the change. That is the priority that has to be done. Now, again, as TFM says in his series, competitiveness and building up of these quote-unquote patriarchal power structures enables men to have some bona fide way of moving up the system. And I mean, it's all well and good as long as those rules are fair and just and equitable, and you're not going to have the risk of having your life being turned upside down by the very thing that you're striving to get, which is and again, this is another part of the Enemies of Men series, striving for that female validation and having that woman in your life and having that being used against you, having that being dangled in front of you and shaming you for it at the same time in order to keep you in line. So what do you do around the issue of competitiveness? Well, like any other group of men, you are going to compete with them when you enter a social group. And this is the case even inside MGTOW. There is an unofficial pecking order of men in the MGTOW community that you've got guys like Redonkulus and Sandman and so forth that get the lion's share of the money and the lion's share of attention from other men who have gone MGTOW. Price's Law does apply here. And although I don't view guys like Terrence Popp and Sandman as competition, I still see myself having to go through the ranks to get up to their level where I am able to generate an independent income from doing what I'm doing. Like they serve as the benchmarks, for lack of a better term. So yeah, competitive. And of course, what is also going on is that there are other MGTOW out there, or other men in the manosphere out there that are also competing for that same pool of attention and cash and resources, although the aim to which they're using it is theirs and theirs alone. As a result, MGTOW is a very highly uncentralized, unstructured thing, and hopefully it stays that way. That is the one side. The yang of it is that it is extremely easy to turn one man against another if a man makes a mistake or if a man shows weakness. And I have seen this in the MGTOW community. I have seen guys, even at my level, I've seen a couple of fellow MGTOW take runs at me. Like, there's not a self-gendered identification with other men just because we happen to have a penis, which is, as Turn Flinging Monkey points out in his Enemy of Man series, and it's called a different thing, but that's why you are never going to have all men come together on something unless it's a serious threat from the outside. And that is the reason why, while you can never really truly get rid of competitiveness, what you can do is you can rise above it. And when I mean rise above it or separate yourself from it, what you're doing is you're going away from the pyramid, from that scrambling tower of caterpillars that goes to the top, and the top is like just a view for something that is really very high risk. And you're going out and you're creating something of your own that is free from that. They don't want free-thinking men are a threat to the power structure, because if enough men start to leave, and here's the thing, right? They are also usually the smartest, most talented, most able, the freest thinkers. My leaving, or any other MGTOW's leaving that have actually gone through the red pill rage, not the guys that male feminists and SJWs and trolls try to move forward as examples of what MGTOW actually is. Those guys also deplete the pool significantly for the rest of us, and it devalues the corrupt system and the structure that is already there. You can't get rid of competitiveness. What you can do is you can take that competitiveness and you can redirect it and channel that energy and that attention and that basic male instinct towards something that you create for yourself, not what a woman tells you to do, not what a society tells you to do. And in that way, again, right, as Turn Flinging Monkey points out, competitiveness is neither good nor bad. If we weren't measuring ourselves against someone else, we wouldn't be able to build and create the things that we create now. Trying to outdo each other and continuing via that process to create a more advanced, more technical society that stops disease, that cures poverty, that enables people, even in North America, it is extremely rare, for instance, for somebody to die of starvation. Competitiveness plays a huge part in that. This is Naroki 5. Like, subscribe, and I will talk to you later.